Hello everyone. My name is Elise. Welcome to my channel. I hope you're all doing so good today. We're gonna do a tag on my channel today, which I don't often do, but I was feeling a more casual, just chatty video. And I remember that there was a tag video going around months ago, honestly, that I wanted to do, but didn't have time while it was going around for me to actually film it and do it. So I thought I would do it now. So this is the What Matters About Reading tag by Bibliosophie. I will link their channel down below, and I'll also put all of the questions down below so you can answer them if you want to, or just spend a little bit more time with them if you want to think about it a bit more. So we're gonna go ahead and dive right in. There's 9 questions total, and I honestly don't remember the questions at this point because it's been so long. I just remember at the time thinking that they were interesting questions to reflect upon. So we're gonna dive into it and see how it goes. Question number 1, I have my laptop down here. So question number 1, what do you want to get out of reading and what stays with you after? It is an interesting question, and it's something that I actually think about a lot for myself and for others. I think I have a lot of curiosity around why other people read. But for me, it does differ, but I would say the overarching thing that I am looking to get out of my reading experience is I'm looking to think and feel deeply. And I know that's broad, but I think it sort of has to be if that's what I'm trying to get out of my reading as a whole. I think that really does speak to me as a reader, and the experience I'm trying to have as a reader is I want to think and feel deeply. You also see that reflected in my reviews. I feel like when I am saying I really am enjoying or appreciating the reading experience of a particular book, I think it's often because it is making me think and or feel deeply. And I crave that. I think that is part of my personality in some ways. I like to be very reflective and introspective, but I also do hold a lot of meaning that reading helps me be a better person, right? It helps me be the best version of myself. And that might sound woo-woo, but when people talk about books changing their life, I agree with that. I think my reading experiences have absolutely shaped me as a person, and I'm so grateful to all the stories that I've been able to engage with so far. And I feel like it's had a really profound impact on my life, and I want to keep having that experience in small ways and big ways and everything in between. Sometimes it's just making me feel an emotion that I'm really wanting to feel or experience and dissect a bit more from a different perspective. Sometimes it is challenging my thought process and challenging some of my values or my beliefs. Like, it could be anything in between, but thinking and feeling deeply, I think, is the simple answer of what I'm getting out of my reading. And that sort of answers the second half of this question, which is what stays with you after. I want to think and feel deeply because it does stay with me afterwards. So that's question number 1. Question number 2, what is reading with intention? Ooh, I think this is a tricky one because the word intentional can mean so many things for people. When I think about it through the lens of reading, I suppose intention for me maybe is more synonymous with presence or engagement. As a reader, maybe what I think I owe to the book is to be present and engaged with what I'm reading. Even if that's just something that is for entertainment or for fun, like if that's the emotion I'm trying to get out of it, I still think like being present with the work, being engaged with the work is not just the least you can do, but sometimes all you can do. I do try and set that intention when I am reading something. Question number 3, what interests you about somebody else's relationship to a book? I love this question because I think about this a lot. And I'm not sure why. I mean, I am really curious about other people's reading, maybe because it's been so meaningful in my own life. I do want to know kind of what other people get out of reading and why they want to read. So those are the things that interest me when I think about other people's reading. And I think that's twofold. I think I'm just curious about them as a person. And I think that does say a little bit about them as a person, why they're wanting to read and what they get out of reading. So I find that fascinating just to get to know the person. But I also do think I kind of always want to recommend people books. And if I know what they want to get out of their reading, I feel like it helps me to recommend a book that is tailored to them. And I do like that process of trying to figure out what could be a good book for someone. I think when people do that for me, I feel like it's a very thoughtful thing for them to do, to really step into my shoes as a reader and try and give some recommendations that are personalized to me. And I like doing that for other people as well. So the short answer is I like knowing why people like reading in the first place and what they want to get out of their reading. Question number 4. How do you talk about books with others, and what do you usually want them to know about a book? Okay, this depends. They're all gonna be that. I would say it depends on where I'm talking about the book. So if I'm talking about a book to someone in my real life, it is most commonly because people are asking me about what I'm reading with the aim to, I think, get a recommendation. So in that sense, I'm probably giving more of a synopsis and talking about the themes that they should expect with the book. If I'm talking about books on here, right, on BookTube, I think I am giving a more personal, biased even review and experience of my reading. This is sort of my way to verbally reflect about my personal taste in general, about my values around books, about my insights and takeaways around the book. It does change a little bit whether or not I'm talking about a book to someone in my real life or on here, right? Which on here, I think I'm talking to other people who care a lot about reading and the reading process, and maybe I'm assuming you're more willing to hear a longer, more drawn out reflection of a book than people in my real life who probably are asking about my reading, one, to either be nice because they know I like to read, or maybe hoping I'll recommend something that they might be interested in reading. Did that make sense? I have no idea. Second part of that question, what do you usually want them to know about a book? Maybe I answered that already. I do want them to have a general sense of what the book is about. That could even just be 1 or 2 sentences, but I think people should probably know a little bit of what they're in for, and then a couple of themes that the book is going to be about. And then here I probably am adding even more information about, the publisher, because I feel like that really matters. I want them to know about the reading experience. I want them to know a little bit about the writing style. And I feel like I have more time and space to do that here. All right, question number 5. Do you review books publicly or privately? I would say yes. I mean, obviously I review books here, and I do think what I do here is review books. I know this is somewhat controversial for people, at least it is on my end of BookTube, that some people feel like BookTube is not reviewing. I do think it is, but I think this type of review, it's a very biased review, right? And I think that's important. I think there's space for that. When I think about a book critic, I think about someone who is trying to give as objective a review as possible about that book. And nobody can give a purely objective review. I know that's not possible, but I do think a book critic is trying to be objective about their book review. That's not what I'm trying to do. And I think that's not what most people on BookTube are trying to do, and I think that's a good thing, right? I am trying to be biased and own my bias in my reviews by saying this book didn't do anything wrong, but I didn't like it because of these reasons. And I think that's helpful because I have a specific reading taste, and I'm trying to show, like, if you have a similar reading taste to me, then maybe you'll think and feel similarly as I do about these things. And if you have a different reading taste to me, then here's how you might interpret this book differently. So I think the short answer is yes, I make very subjective reviews online on my booktube. I don't review privately. That's a no to that one. I don't keep a reading journal. I sort of feel like this is my reading journal, and I like this format much better than physically writing out a reading journal. So I don't do any private reviewing. Question number 6. Do you use a rating system? Why or why not? I do, with an asterisk. I would say for my online platform, so like for Storygraph, I am rating all of the books that I read. Well, almost all. There are some times where I don't rate a book, but I'm rating almost every book that I read. And I do that because it really helps with the channel, I feel like. It is so helpful to be able to sort all of the books that I read in a year by rating, so I can help organize my content a bit more, right? So like if I'm thinking about my favorite books of the year, it's nice to be able to just look at like all of my 5 and 4-star reads and say like, okay, what are my favorites from that? And same thing with like other content. It's really nice for me to be able to sort it by the star rating. That's the main reason that I do that there. In terms of like, do I rate them publicly? I would say I don't often give a star rating on the channel unless it's a 5-star book. I think every time I read a 5-star book, I try to say that on my review of it on the channel. And that is because I feel like that is the current vocabulary to best communicate to you that I loved a book, right? Like this is a book that I highly recommend and got a lot out of. I think being able to just say it's a 5-star read communicates that very efficiently. So that is why I'll always say on my channel, like, this is a 5-star read, at least for now, until the vocabulary changes maybe, and later on I'll have a different thing to communicate that. But otherwise, if it's not a 5-star read, I don't really think I'm ever saying what my star rating is. That's a little bit of how I think about the ratings. For me, it's really helpful on the back end on my private Storygraph, but publicly, I'm really only telling you if it's a 5-star book, just because I feel like that's the vocabulary of the moment to communicate that to you. But I'm curious if you rate them, and if you do, why or why not, right? I think this question is something that people talk a lot about on YouTube, whether or not there's validity in ratings. And I do think I see the argument, or I should say, I agree with the argument that star reviews on platforms like Storygraph, I don't put any stock in those as a reader. They're helpful for myself to categorize my own reading, but I don't really put stock in other people's star ratings of a book. Because I think they are so subjective. I would much rather just listen to someone review the book of why or why they did not like it, and then make my own decision of whether or not that book would be for me. The star rating doesn't mean anything to me, and I don't check that before I read a book. All right, next question. Number 7, do you ask yourself if you've liked a book? And how much does liking a book matter? I mean, not to get into the semantics of it all, but I do think it matters on like what liking a book is. I don't need to enjoy the process of reading a book to appreciate that book. Like a book that comes to mind for me is Bluebeard's Castle by Anna Biller, I think is the author, and I think it's Verso that publishes that. I hated the process of reading that book. It is horrific to be living in that character's mind and living in that abusive relationship for so long, and for her to just keep convincing herself that she is in love and her partner loves her, it is horrible to read. And yet, I think that book is so well done. I really appreciate what that book is trying to do and think it's doing it very well. So in that sense, like, I don't need to like the process of reading it in order to like the book as a whole and what it's trying to do, like the project of it. But maybe to harken back to the first question, I want a book to have me think and feel deeply, and if it does, I will like that book, like appreciate that book. But if liking means enjoying, then I don't need to enjoy the process to like the project. Maybe you're interpreting that question differently. If you are, let me know how you're interpreting it. Number 8, penultimate question. What do you seek out from others who read publicly? Then in parentheses, reviews, summaries, analysis, curriculum. I think what I'm seeking out from others who read publicly is, and I think this has changed over time, but I think right now I am looking for people's personal takes on a work, which is partially why I enjoy BookTube so much, as opposed to like reading book reviews in the New York Times, which is something that I used to do a lot. And I still do that sometimes, but I much prefer now getting someone's personal experience of that book, right? And I think it's partly why I really like watching vlogs nowadays, which also has changed since even just starting watching BookTube, which I only started watching BookTube in COVID, so it hasn't been that long, but I started wanting to watch basically just wrap-ups and maybe like a book haul, so I could get exposure to books and hear reviews on books. Now I really value getting to see the context in which the person is experiencing the book that they're reading. And I feel like vlogs show that, right? It's a more real-time experience. And I like those like initial thoughts right after finishing, and then maybe even getting to update a couple days later to see if anything else came to mind or if they changed the way that they felt about the book. And I like getting to see like if someone's listening to an audiobook while they're cleaning, and that somehow impacts how they're engaging with the book. Like, I just like that very specific, like hyper specific context of reading a book and how that shapes the reading experience, that I like seeing that from other people reviewing books. Did that make any sense? I have no idea if I'm making any sense here, but it made sense to me. It made sense in my brain. Maybe to more directly answer, I like critical analysis of reading and the book itself. And I like seeing what people get out of it, because, you know, different people are going to get different things out of books, and it kind of helps fill gaps or blind spots for me to get to see somebody else read the same book as me and see if we had similar or different thoughts and opinions about it. And then of course I'm always looking for more books to read. So that is and will always be true. I'm always got my eye out for a book that I think I would enjoy reading. All right, last question. Who do you go to for those things? Oh, okay. A lot of people. I know every year for my like BookTube anniversary, I list out a bunch of booktubers that I haven't mentioned previously that I subscribe to, and think if you watch my channel, you might also want to check them out. I've like collated lists of that in the past, and maybe I'll put those in the description down below, or at least link to the last video that I did where I did list like all 40 that I've done so far, or whatever it is. But I think right now, people who are still posting that come to mind that I really value getting to witness them being a reader. It's always going to be Sarah from Eyes on Indie. One, just because, you know, she exclusively just covers independent presses on her channel. I read a lot of independent presses, and I think it's hard to find other booktubers who read the volume of independent presses that maybe I crave, but Sarah absolutely does, because that is 100% of her channel, and she just has really interesting takes on reading and the books themselves, and she's one of the only people that can bring a lot of new books to my attention, because she's even more locked into independent publishers than I am. So I feel like her channel just covers a lot of bases for me, where like I get great reviews, she's super interesting and fun to watch, and she can actually put new books on my radar. And then outside of that, there's like a bunch of other people that I watch. So I will just link them all down below. Like me trying to rifle through 30 different booktubers that I love and adore is it's not going to be helpful for you, I don't think. So I'll call out Sarah because I think her channel is really unique and is a channel that I feel like is important to me in my own reading journey, but I will list a ton of others down below, so please go look at those. And that's the end of the tag. These questions, if anything, did make me think deeply about my reading, so I appreciate it for that. Let me know what you would answer to any of these questions. I would be fascinated to know, because again, one of the things I love is trying to understand why other people read and what they get out of their reading. So please let me know anything down below. If you have any channels that you want to shout out down below that you really love and get a lot from, do that, absolutely. I'm always looking for more people that align with what I'm wanting to get out of reading, and we'll leave it at that for now. So thank you for watching. I will see you all in the next one. Bye.